There we go. Great. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for the 5th lesson of Subs and Stars. SkyNews is running this to try and teach people how to edit astrophotos. And joining me tonight is our wonderful host here, Paul Owen, astrophotographer extraordinaire out on the East Coast of Canada. And as is tradition, please feel free to let us know where you're coming from tonight in the chat. And so just to start it off, I wanted to kind of show you, because this is an incredible data package. Paul and I were just talking about the fact that it's a very complex data package, eh, Paul?
It is indeed, yeah.
And so with it's almost 35 hours worth of data to play around with. Samantha, who is the outreach coordinator for RASC, she gave me a copy of the image that she had produced with the robotic telescope, but using 2-minute subs instead. So I just wanted to give you guys a peek at what that looked like, just to get an idea of just how powerful this data is. Let's see, share my screen. Okay, so there it is.
Wow.
And so this here is Samantha's image, 2-minute subs. As you can see, it's rather blown out there in the core. Like, it's still beautiful, like it's the Orion Nebula. You can't really go wrong. A lot of people's first, where they first point their cameras when they start taking astrophotos. I plan on pointing mine there pretty soon. So no promises that it'll even look like half this good. And also here I have a couple of different versions of Paul's. So just another kind of example of the fact that, you know, with the Orion Nebula, as with any astrophoto, you can have different styles and different ways of portraying it. Like, I'm using a different background for Paul right now. And so here's one example, kind of lighter pinks, more those stronger blues. And this is another version where you get kind of a hotter pink. And I like them both. I think they're both great. So something to think about when you're producing your own astrophotos and when you're making the Orion Nebula sing the way you want it to. And so with that, the baton passed to Paul.
Yeah, it's a complex target. Everybody says, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people say that it's actually a beginner's target. And I think it's beginners only because it's one of the brightest things you can see in the sky naked eye. So you automatically point your telescope to it, and it happens to be in the wintertime the most photographed thing in the sky. There's a few things around Orion, but Orion is one of the most photographed things in the sky. And I remember one of my first images was using a DSLR, and just like Samantha's, that was kind of the result I got. And in fact, hers was way better than what it was. And but it was just a thrill of doing it, because you can always get something from Orion. And if you're not looking at a picture on your screen while you're processing and all that kind of stuff, you'll come up with different versions. As you can see, behind Allendria is one version. Behind me is a totally different version, the same data set. But if you just you can be a little creative with it, but just as long as you put things in the right place, we know that the central portion is kind of red or pink or reddish bluish, or, you know, that hydrogen alpha color. And then of course, the outer part of all those clouds are oxygen 3. So they should be somewhat grayish, bluish, that kind of a thing. And even behind me on the shoulder here, there we go. There's a lot of very dark dust. And when you get a lot of dark dust in front of a lot of those other colors, then it actually turns sometimes to a tan kind of a color, because it's not allowing all the colors to come through, because the dust and the gases and everything else are muting it out. So it's a really fun target, especially with this data. I can't believe they put this much time into it. And I've been playing with this for, as I was telling Allendria, probably about almost 2 weeks now. And every time I process it, I get something different. And because I start looking and finding new things, and it's like, oh, that is so cool. I'm going to try to bring that out. And anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like you're saying here too, it's like one of the, like, there's just so much of that data, but it's because there's so many different light levels too, right? There are certain areas that are much brighter, like the core of the nebula right in here.
Yeah.
That's why in the version that Samantha shared, like, it's blown out, because if you know, as with anything, if you're taking an image and there's one part that's brighter and one part that's darker, something's either going to be under or overexposed. And so in order to get this, like with all of this glorious data, they when they were collecting the data, they collected the subs at different lengths of time. So you can blend the two and make it look like it's, you can just see the whole thing, get those dust clouds, and without overexposing the core. But it is a complex task to blend it, which is what you're here to show us, eh, Paul?
I'm going to try, by golly. I learned about a new, we're going to be processing in PixInsight, and I'm also going to show some Photoshop stuff after, how to enhance all this when you got it kind of all assembled and put together. And our good friend, Mr. Ron Breacher, was so kind to show me today a blending tool that's actually in PixInsight that makes this the blending process so much easier than taking it out of one software, putting it in another, and then bringing it back in. So anyway, so this tool is really nice. It's actually quite easy to use. I'll hopefully make it look that way. And but we'll have fun putting it all together. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of assembling before we even get to those final master frames where we can start actually processing. So I guess we should probably get to it. So I'm going to try to share my screen here, get my computer working. I'm going to move our meeting over to that screen. And then and I'll have to make that big so that I can hit my share screen. And I always have to share this one. Oops. And let me know if you can see it okay.
Can see it.
Okay, good. All right. So so this, for those who aren't familiar with, I'm going to drop this a little bit. We always have to do this, don't we? I don't know how to do that. One of these days I'll learn some other things besides processing images. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use PixInsight. So for those who don't know PixInsight is a astro processing software package, and it is absolutely phenomenal. The more I use it, the more I appreciate it. And there's learning curves to everything, but this one, if you've used Photoshop at all, and if you're kind of playing around with image processing, it's not that different, just that it kind of groups things differently, which I really like, because with any photo image, there is linear stages where you're actually taking things away from the image, you know, the noise and the gradients and all that stuff. And then there's the nonlinear stage. Once you've got all that stuff done, then you're starting to add things to the image. So that would be things like, you know, dynamic range tools, colors, all blending, all kinds of stuff. So we'll go through that process. So the first thing that we have to do to get started on this particular target is we have to load in our files. So I'm going to do that. Now, when you load it your files in, you should have a total of 10 files. So I'm going to open mine. And there they are. So I'm just going to click on one, go to the very end, hit my shift key, and I'm going to grab all of those files, and I'm going to put them right on our screen. And there's a lot of files there. And we have to use all of these files to be able to come up with our image. So we got to do a little bit of assembling. It looks really complex, but once we get into it, it's really not that bad. Now, I think on all of our Subs and Stars episodes, we use channel combination to put our pictures together. So that's no different with this. If you look right up the center where all these numbers are, I'll take that one out because that's actually one of the narrowband images. But if you look at these the way that they're laid out, this is 600 seconds, this is 600 seconds, and this is 600 seconds. So these would be the long exposures in red, blue, and green. So we're just going to take those three and make one image. So we're going to take our channel combination. Now, if you don't know where it is, you can, oh, I wish I could get rid of that remote thing on my computer. There. So if you go up to where it says processes, all processes, and it says all your tools are alphabetical order. So just where it says channel combination, you can click on it there, or you can make shortcuts like I do, and I put it right up here. So excuse me. So I'm going to open up my channel combination, and this is really quite simple. I'm going to take the red file, which has red written right on the side of it. So when you grab these tabs, you have to grab it from the side and not the top. Because if you grab it from the top, you're going to move the whole picture, right? All we want to do is grab the tab and put that here. So now my red is in the R for red. And then I'm going to go to my green. Whoops. Sorry about that. I created a clone because my mouse hit something on the way over. I'm just going to close that clone. Grab that green and put it into green. And then grab the blue. Again, keeping in mind that this is 600 seconds and putting it into the blue. That's it. Then all you have to do is press that round circle there, and it's going to create an RGB image of 600 seconds. So we just need to name it. So when we just hover over our identifier, and you just right click on it, and where the word identifier is, just click on that and type in RGB _ 600 seconds. 600S is fine. Whoops, I got 66. 600 seconds. There we go. And we hit OK. So now and I'm just going to shrink that. Whoops, shrink that one down. And that's that. Now that we've got that done, now we can just simply get rid of this one, and this one. Okay, those are no longer needed to be on the desk because we now have already combined them. Now we do the same thing. We're going to clear our channel combiner with that little X in the corner. That will clear all the data that's in those little drop downs. And make sure that you're on RGB when you're doing this. Now we're going to take the red 60-second, the blue 60-second, and the green 60-second, do exactly the same thing. So grab the side tab, red to red, grab the green to green, and then that little blue likes to hide on us. Grab the blue to blue. Okay. And again, very same thing. Push the button, and then out comes your RGB 60-second. So let's identify that as RGB _ 60 seconds. We hit OK, and we shrink him down, and we put him away for the time being. Now what we're going to do is clear our channel combination. I'm just going to turn it off for a moment. And we're going to get rid of these 60-second ones. We don't need them anymore. So now we're knocking off these pictures like crazy, aren't we? I'm going to take the hydrogen alpha and the oxygen 3, and I'm just going to shrink them, and we'll deal with the narrowband after. Okay, so all we're left with now are the Luminance files. Now, if you've never worked with Luminance, what it is, it's basically it's lightness. Basically, it's black and white images, and I'll just open this one here to show you. And that's all it is. It's just black and white images. That's what these are. In fact, these are all grayscale until we set them up in our channel combination and then assign them colors. But at this stage, they're all grayscale. Even our red and greens and blues were all grayscale.
And
so
just to double check here, because I'm like, my understanding of Luminance is that it's a really defined data set. Like you get really, really clear, like dust clouds and that kind of thing. And so you put it on top of your RGB to get definition, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. And I'll just open the other one up so you can see, that what these are. Yeah, so what luminance is what's, by the time we're done with luminance, because with luminance, we take a little bit more time and we spend more time trying to bring out more definition with it, because the luminance is going to give you that overall definition and sharpness in the image, whereas the color images can be, and sometimes are, a little blurry to start, but when you put the luminance over top, it kind of ties it all together. And it just, it's almost like taking a pair of glasses and looking at a color blotch and then putting on the glasses and, oh, wow, there it is. So sometimes they make that much difference, sometimes they don't, but depends on how well you process the color stuff. So,
thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said thank you. That's all.
You'll notice that there's two different luminance images. One luminance, this one is 900 seconds, and the other one is 60 seconds. Now, the reason why there's two different exposure lengths on these, and I can't remember how many files are in each, but the bottom line is after they're stacked, this is a stack of 60-second images, and this is a stack of 900-second images. Excuse me. The reason that they shot 60 seconds is exactly what Allendria talked about what Samantha did, was when she shot her picture, she got this kind of a core. It was kind of blown out. And the reason being was because when you expose for 2 minutes on the Orion Nebula or even the Andromeda Galaxy, the central cores of those are so bright, they will overexpose, especially when you start to stretch them. It'll just go like you have no control over them. So even though this one, if I'm going to turn this off and I want to show you this, this is quite important. When I turn off the stretch on this image, you can still see that's blown out, right? So this is completely black. This is completely linear with no stretch. So there is absolutely no data in there. It's totally blown out. If I do the same thing with a 60-second image, and I'll turn off that stretch, look at the core. Everything is in place. Everything is there. And that's the whole point behind shooting in different exposure lengths, is that you want to retain the detail and the information in the central portion in the shorter exposure. And then you want to get the detail and information in the whole outer portion of the longer exposure, which is the really faint, dim stuff. So it's kind of like trying to take a picture of a sunset. The sun gets kind of blown out, and then everything else in the foreground, maybe you can see it. Sometimes you got to compromise. And anyway, so it's that sort of thing. So you have to have two different exposures and blend them together to be able to get a complete image with complete information all over the image. So that's what these are. And you're going to notice, I'm just going to shrink these down. Oh, actually, I got to label them first. We're going to call this one, this is the 900 second. So the identifier will be Loom 900 seconds. Okay. And the reason I kind of put shorter names is because there's a lot of data down here. And as soon as we start putting masks and things on, we run out of space to see what we're doing. So I'm just going to shrink that one down. That one's now done. And I'm going to rename this one identifier. And we call this one Loom _ 60 seconds. Okay. And we can shrink him down. Okay, good. So now we've got the 4 main images that we're going to be working with. And this is what we got to start with before we even get into the narrowband data, is we have our color images, which is red, green, and blue. That's what RGB means. And then the luminance images are there as well. So let's work with the color images first. So the first thing that we want to do with these, excuse me, actually with all the images, I'm going to have to open them all. But let me just, I'll do that after. I'm just going to open them all to a very small size. And because we have to do a dynamic crop on each and every one of them to make sure that they are all the same size when we crop them. And what cropping allows us to do is to get rid of stacking artifacts that show up in the images. When you stack 36 hours worth of images, there's going to be times when that camera's not in the same position. So you will get some artifacts on the outer edges of your images. So I'm just going to shrink these all down a little bit. And this is the laborious part of the stage of a project of this size, It's just kind of getting everything lined up and assembled. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to stretch each and every one of these images. I'll just put stretch on this one, stretch on that one. And the reason I'm stretching it is I need to see which one has the worst lines on it. And that will be the one that we're going to do our dynamic crop, base it off of that one, because that one is the one we have to correct the most, or crop the most, I should say. Excuse me. And there's our final one. Okay, so now they're all open and they're all stretched. I'm just going to shrink them a little bit so we can see the edges of each one. Whoops, didn't want to do that. There we go. And I'll just move these so they're just a little bit more in order so they don't look so chaotic. And there we have it. Okay, so now we've got these all, and I'm going to shrink each one a bit so I can see the outer edges. That's all I want to do. Okay, so now this is 113, 113, 112. Whoops, I'll put them all 113, and so that they are identical in size when I crop. Okay, so the one that I see with the ugliest edges on it is, move my computer over a bit, is this one right here. That's got a lot of bad images or edges on it. So we're going to use this one to do our crop. So what we need to do is select the image first that we want to do the initial crop on. Then we're going to open up our dynamic crop, and this tool opens up. And you can see now that my image is grayed out and there's lines around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically get rid of those dark edges. I like that blue star that's in the top, so I'm going to try to save it the best I can. There's not a lot of data behind this, but I'm not worried about this one because this one's the core. So I'm only going to be using the central portion of this anyway. So, but all the other ones I don't need to take off as much, but I'll take off that much of this one just to make the job easier. And I'll just remove those stars just because we don't really need to have those there. So once I'm safe and I'm happy with that, then all I do is I take this tool here and I just start dropping it on all the other images. And what that does, that takes that same crop that I just took a couple of seconds to create, and it's going to do the same thing to each and every one of these images. So as we assemble them, they are all going to be cropped identically. Identically. There, they're done. Okay, so I'm going to put away again the hydrogen alpha and the O3 because we don't need those for now. I'm going to put away the luminance for now. Excuse me.
Those RGB versions look great too already. Like the Orion Nebula is just so pretty. I like it.
Oh, it's such a gorgeous, gorgeous target. It's just, oh my goodness. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to work on the RGB data first. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a dynamic background extraction. Now, the thing with dynamic background extraction, what it's designed to do, it's to mitigate gradients in your image, vignetting in your image, excuse me, any kind of, things that are just kind of funky in your image. And it's supposed to make your background nice and even all across your image. With this image, because we have such a long focal length on that telescope down in California, we're only getting this much of Orion. And there's a lot, and I mean a lot of nebulosity in this target. I'll blow this up so you can see it. There is so much of it that it's hard to find a spot on here where I can actually do dynamic crop, right? Because it's just so full of nebulosity. So after playing around with it for a while, I came up with a process that works pretty good on this. So this is it. So this is dynamic background extraction. And what its job to do is to use a subtraction to get rid of, some of the light gradients and that kind of thing. And then it also uses division, and that's designed to get rid of if you got vignetting, like darkening of the corners, and if you got any kind of remnants of donuts and that kind of stuff. It's designed to take care of that sort of thing. And so we do that twice to each one of these images. So in order to get the best we can out of it. When I kind of put this together, I had these up here, but I'm actually going to take those out because once we get going, and you'll see as we get moving along in this image, there is all kinds of data up here. And when you're doing dynamic background extraction, you don't want your sample points on anything nebulous, and you don't want them over really bright stars because it will alter those things. So I'm actually going to leave this side of the image alone, and I'm only going to put some of these background samples down in each of these corners, because that's really the only place that there's not a lot of data. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to do this with each and every one of the images, knowing what's coming up behind. Once I've got that done, I'm just going to create a second one. I just take that little blue triangle, drag it and drop it down there. Now I have an identical version of what we just did. I'm actually going to get rid of this one because that was from another session. There we go. So all we have to do now that we've got these points done, is we're going to do subtraction first. And I'm going to discard the background model because there are all the other lessons that we did. It talks about the background models and what we're supposed to do with them. And you can look back on that if you like. So, and if I left it unchecked, it will produce a background model, which I'm going to clear off anyway. So this is just going to help us save some time. So I'm going to drop this onto our image, and it's going to create a new image. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the background extraction off. Yes, I want to do that. And then I'm going to save that image, my RGB 60 stack. I'll just put it over here for now. So now we're going to do that one more time. I'm going to open up dynamic background extraction again. Now this is identical. You can see that my points are only on one side of the image. Actually, you know what? I just thought about something. I apologize. I am going to use points over here. My apologies, and I'll explain to you why after. And division, I don't want the background model. Put it over here.
Ed Mizzy is just asking if it's possible to see all of your dynamic background extraction settings, like sample size, etc.
Yes, it is actually. Okay, let's do that. My sample generation is right here. And these are the sample sizes. I'm using 63. I'm only using 3 samples per row because there are such a few places where you can find background on this image that's why I've decided to just use like 9 samples or however many samples came up. And the sample weight is at 75. The colors, well, you can see the color through, it's pretty much gray. It's quite a dark image, so you can see that. So that is the sample generation sizes that I used.
And the follow-up is, did you select those settings based on experience?
Yes. I find that if I'm using fewer sample points, and a lot of times if I'm using especially in an image with a lot of stars, sometimes it's almost impossible to put a sample point down where there's not stars. But if you can increase the size of the sample point, make it larger and bigger, it'll encompass some of the stars, but it'll encompass way more background than it does stars, and then it'll average itself out. So you can see this sample point here that I'm green on. If I move that around, that's where it should be right there. So I'm not seeing that big star, right? Yeah. And if I look at any of, normally I'd have that stretch so you'd see it. I'll open it up. There you go. So I was sitting on a big star right there, right? So that's where that one, should be, just to make sure we're not sitting on funny things. But that's the reason for choosing a larger sample point, is you want more sample, more background than you do stars.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we've got that done. So now I'm going to do the division. Did I already do the division? I think I did. Yes, I did. Okay. So then I'm going to get rid of this, close that. And then I'm going to get rid of this other image. I don't need it anymore. Okay, so now I've got my dynamic background extraction done on this image. So you can see the reason I put the sample points back in the corners is because there is a ton of nebulosity that if I didn't put it there, if I just left it black and I used these sample points only, then this corner would actually turn out very, very dark. And I would have a hard time digging out that data. But you can see now, just on that stretch, there's so much data down in this corner And I knew that going into it. And so by putting my sample points in there, it actually allowed me to bring a little bit more of that out. So that's why I did it. Okay, so I'm going to shrink this one down. And now we're going to do the same thing to our 600-second one. So I'm going to make that just a little bit bigger. There we go. And we're going to regenerate this, but just simply double click on it. It will automatically bring up background extraction. It'll automatically place your sample points on the image. But I didn't save it when I put the other ones on. So I'm just going to put 2 in each one of the corners here. Then I'm going to go ahead and do my subtraction first. I'm not going to look at the background model. So I'm just going to drop it onto the image. It's going to create a new image. There's my new image. So now what we're going to do is we're going to close out. Oh, I didn't save it. Hold it before I do that. Let me just save that. There we go. I'm going to close out dynamic background extraction. And then I'm going to save this one here. So they're out of the way. And now I'm going to do the same thing to this image. I'll open it up again. Excuse me. Double click it. And then all of my points are there. The only change I have to make now is to change it to division instead of subtraction and simply drop it over. And it's going to create another image. And they always go black because this is linear. And when it creates a new image, it doesn't know you want to stretch on it. So that's why they go black. So then we're going to go and close out dynamic. I don't need that image anymore. And now, excuse me, I have a stretched 600-second RGB. And I'll just put these processes. That was the last one I used, or the 36 was. So I'm just going to get rid of 35. And so now I have a stretched 600-second RGBE and a 60-second RGB file, one with our data kept up in the center and one without. So now we've got that done. What we're going to do is we're going to blend these 2 pictures together. So the first thing I need to do is save them. Now, the thing about the tool that I'm going to use, the tool I'm going to use here is called HDR Composition. And this tool will not allow you to take images off of this screen and put it on. It won't work. You have to do what they call save to disk. So you have to take these images, save them in a file on your computer, and reopen them in here. So we're going to do just that. So I'm just going to click on this one first, File, and I'm going to Save As. And I'm going to save it just what it is. And the file that I created for this was called HDR Composition. I just went on my desktop, created a file, called it HDR Composition. So that's what it is. So we'll put our first one in. And we don't have to really adjust anything there. Then we click on the second image. Excuse me, I got to drink something here. My throat's a little dry tonight. And then Save As. Exactly what it is. It'll put it in there as the 60-second one and say okay to that. Good. So now I've got them both saved. Now what I need to do is I don't need to look at this one here anymore. I'm just going to shrink them down just for a minute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a preview on the area that I want to blend. So what I'm going to do is go to my preview window up the top, that little page with a shadow on it is. And I'm just going to go down here and go ahead, and that's the area that I want to do my composition, excuse me, my blending on. Once I've got that done, I'm going to go and add the files back in. So I'm going to add files. And there's the 2 files that were dropped in that file folder that we saved. When you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, the data that this tool wants in position is the 600-second image first. I call that 600-second, 600-second image first. So I'm going to click on that and open it. So now that puts it in #1 position. I'm going to add the second one in and grab the 60-second one and open it. So now they're in position. So now I just got to press a few buttons down here to make this actually work. So I'm going to turn off this automatic exposure evaluation, and only because we don't need this now. And I'm not going to get into a long explanation of this, because if I explain all these tools, we'll be here for 3 hours. So, but on another video, we will certainly talk about this. I'm going to leave the output composition mask on because I want to show you the mask that it's going to create. The only thing I need to do now, that should have turned green, not red. Boy, I hope this works. Let me just turn the tool off first. I just got to make sure that's supposed to turn green. That preview. Delete. And I'm going to open the tool first. I'm going to add the files in. This one. And the second one. There we go. What was that one? Okay. I may have to rename these. And again, this is the part that I just picked this up today. So I really do apologize for this. So, so we're on the 600-second image, so I should be able to. No, it's red. I don't think it's going to do it. I think I have to oh, sorry, turn that off.
Red is bad.
Red is not good. That should be turning green. And it's not. Okay, I'm just going to try it just to see if it does. We may get lucky. Oh, I can't believe it. I did this 5 times today and it worked great. Okay, so then all we have to do now is select that preview. Whoops, here. From preview. And from preview is the RGB 600-second DBE. Okay, and we put that in there. That's it. So all that is done. And so all we have to, if this works, I push this button.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. It should give me 2 images. Okay, it didn't work. I have to rename them. Good golly, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. We do have a question here from Bruce, who is asking about when cropping, should you try to keep the same aspect ratio? Like if you want to keep it perfectly square?
Yeah, I would. Yes. Yeah. Unless it's an image that was shot, like this particular data set here is a square sensor, but some sensors are rectangular. So it depends on how much data you want to keep on your image and how much you have to crop out. If I had a rectangular sensor, I would only try to crop out what I didn't need and keep everything else.
Yeah, and like from it's an aesthetic point of view, eh? Like so when I edited my version of the Galaxy, which Galaxy was it? NGC 4331, I think, something like that. I cropped it in close. I wanted to see that galaxy. And so with something like the Orion Nebula, in this particular shot that we've got, like the data goes right to all the edges, all 4 edges. And so it really, I think it's more of an aesthetic thing. And what you're trying to capture with it.
Exactly. So now I'm just trying to do this again. I really can't believe this is happening, but it does.
It's expected, you know. It always works perfectly in the practice sessions, and then when you get up on the stage, the mic breaks.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so desktop, HDR composition, they are correct in there. So I wonder if it's because I've got the name twice. So I'm just going to try to rename these and see if that will help. So I'm going to rename this one RGBE. I'll just take the 2 DBEs out. Whoops. Underscore. Okay, and then we'll try that on this one as well. And okay, all right. So let's hope that will do it.
Ameliorates the issues,
Yeah, I'm just hoping that's what it is. Anyway, I had this happened to me today a couple of times, and I had to kind of figure out what was going on. Okay, so whoops, I'll close those first before I can do anything here. There we are. Okay, so let's take that preview and delete it. Okay, so all we have on this one Oh, hold it now. I think I know what happened. I think I grabbed the see here, just hang on. There's no history on these, and there should be. Yeah, I think I figured it out. Yeah, okay, that's just dynamic crop. But this one is not showing me any history.
So it's the wrong version?
I'm not really sure. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is. Okay, so I'm going to try to save these again. So file and save as, and I'm going to get rid of those other ones first.
Well, these things are bound to happen when you've got as much in the way of processing to do, right? Like these are, when you have this many files, and different parts of it, it's
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I say, it was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was editing a star chart today, and I did a lot of work on this one file, but I had 3 or 4 different files open with different elements. Like one has the lines between the asteroids and
Yeah.
of course, I closed the one without saving, which I had been working on for, a good 20 or 30 minutes, and had to do it all again. So
there must be something else open because it won't even let me save it now. Oh my good golly. I am so sorry for this. Well, I won't let me do that. I want to clear the other images first. So if I go file, open, and SDR composition. That one. Those are the 2 files that we saved. And whoops, these are the 2 that should have been. Whoops, close up on, there we go. That one and that one are the ones that we were working with. Okay, so if I unstretch that, there we go, just for a minute. And then I'm going to see, oh, okay, these can't be open though. That's right, I have to open them from here. HDR composition, there we are. Oh my goodness. Add files. So it should be this one first. And then this one second. And make sure that's off, which it is. And then what we have to do is just draw a preview on this. Ah, it's green. That's a good sign.
There we go.
And from preview, should be it there. Okay. And then we should be able to get the composition.
There's a comment here that it's refreshing to see an expert makes mistakes.
And it didn't work. Oh my gosh. It didn't work. Okay. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to, I actually have another file where I put some aside. I'm just going to grab them ones.
Yeah, for sure.
And see if that'll work. Okay, so file, open, desktop. These ones, and I'll put, okay, so I'm going to open them from here. HDR composition. It won't open. I guess I can close that file first. And okay, we'll add the files in, and these ones are going to be from here. 600-second one first. 60-second one second. Whoops, wrong one. And then we're going to use the preview from this. Hopefully this preview will work on this one. We'll see. And fitting region from preview. That one. Okay. And then we'll see if this. Yes, perfect. Worked.
Okay.
Yay.
All right.
Okay, so what is it's taking and it's made a mask. And the mask that it made, anything that's black is concealed, and anything that's white is revealed. So it allowed us to reveal the center portion of this image to come through. So that's what it's done. That's what the mask done. So when I put output composition mask, I just want to show that. So let me close that because I don't need that now. And now we have our HDR image. And if I expand on it, now you can see I've got the core in there, and I've got the whole nebula and everything. So the color one is all ready to go. So I'm going to call that HDR _ RGB. Okay, so that's that. Well, that's already it's already being used somewhere. I know where it's being used too. If I can get to my, can't get to my folder here because okay, I'm going to go okay. Cancel that. I'll rename something else. HDR, and I'm just going to call it HDR RGB without the underscore. There we go. Okay, so that one is ready to go.
Okay.
Now we're going to do the same thing. I have to clear the files, and we're going to do the same thing with our luminance. So our luminance is all ready to go, except we need to put the dynamic range on it, which we haven't done yet. So we know what we're going to do with that. So to save some time, I think I've got the luminance in that same file. So it would be exactly the same thing we saw on the RGB, but because we lost some time, I'm just going to grab them from there. So we're going to take that luminance 900 and open it up. Oops. There we are. There we go. And we're going to open the files that we want. So we're going to go back to those same files that were in this one. And I'm so glad I didn't delete them.
Yeah.
Whoops, I didn't mean to open it. I meant to open it here. Add files. 900 loom, open. Add files. 60-second loom, open. There we go. And everything else looks good. All I got to do is draw again the little area that I want to change. Oh, I'll turn red again, please. Oh, let's find out. That should work.
There's a question here from Bruce.
Yes.
That the 60-second image looked noisy. Is there any advantage to doing some noise reduction before we're combining this?
Yeah, we're going to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to do our noise reduction a little further in the process.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. And I'm actually glad they brought that up because that 60-second image, and let me just see if I can find it here. That's the 900 second. Where's the 60-second loom right there? Yes, if you look at that image, whoops.
Yeah, the 60-second is going to tend to, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise in it. There's a lot of banding in it. There's all kinds of stuff. But you're going to see as we go throughout this process, that's all going to disappear.
Okay.
But we are going to do some noise reduction to help mitigate some of it. All right, so we got our mask. We already know what that's for. Let's have a look at this, make sure that we got, and we're saying, oh my gosh, that looks blown out. But if I turn it off, no, it's not. All the images and all the data's there. So we're good with that. So we're going to call HDR loom. HDR loom. And okay, so now we've got both of those images. Perfect. So now that we've got both of those, so we got our HDR RGB, HDR loom, and to save some confusion, I no longer need these, so I'm just going to get rid of them because I want to keep the desk as clean as possible because we're working with so much data here. It's easy to grab the wrong thing.
Yep.
So we don't need that anymore. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so now we've got those two images. So the next thing we need to do is to actually put some color calibration on this image.
Before we
So-
run too far, we have another question.
Yeah.
Why are you defining a preview of the core, but then applying the process to the whole image?
Okay, I'm not following the question. I put a preview before. Oh,
Yeah. Like
I
the
guess.
preview on the core, and then it goes to the whole image, I guess.
Yeah, what the preview was in this particular tool is only, it's like selecting, if you're familiar with Photoshop, it's like selecting a spot on the image. And then when I actually click on it, it'll actually take that spot on the image because it knows there's two images and it knows that's the spot that it has to apply the blend in the other image. If I'm doing a preview screen on, and I'll do one here in the next one. If I'm doing a preview screen on a function like noise reduction, I will use a preview. And the reason that you would use the preview is because you only want to take a small part of the image when you're starting to play with adjustments, just because you might adjust it 2 or 3 times. And it takes a lot less time for the preview to actually go through the steps than it does the whole image. So it's a quicker process. And at the same time, the preview always blows things up more. And especially in noise reduction, you can see how effective it is.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start our noise reduction. So we're going to use what they call multi-scale linear transfer. And you can use this for noise reduction and for sharpening. We are using it for noise reduction. If you want to find it, all processes. And again, everything's in alphabetical order, multi-scale linear transform. So that's the one that we're using. So, so this is really quite an easy tool to use. The first thing we need to do is establish a mask. This will actually put a mask on our image. So we're going to take our main image that's stretched right now, and we're going to unstretch it. Then we're going to go over to where it says linear mask and make sure that's checked because we want to use it. And we're going to check this preview mask. This will now turn off all of the controls because all it wants you to do is focus on your mask. So down here is the preview. You press on that button and then your preview mask will appear. I like to use it inverted because I can actually see what I'm masking better. So the white will be affected, the black will be protected. And this image is really, really clean in the center, but it gets really noisy in the darker areas. So this mask actually is going to work very well. So I'm satisfied with this mask. So I can just turn this off because it's only a preview. The mask is still there. I'm going to turn off the preview mask itself. Now that we've got the mask ready to go with this image, I'm going to re-stretch it. Once I've re-stretched it, I'm now going to use that preview we were just asked about, and I'm going to put it down in this corner here because this image is so clean that the light areas are actually almost noise-free. The only place you're going to find noise is in the dark areas. So let's go to preview, and as you can see, that blew it up an awful lot, didn't it? And you're going to see that it's still super clean. And the reason that you take so much data and stack so much data is that you're starting with clean data to begin with. It's a joy, it really is. But there's still noise here. You can actually see some of it there. So let's go ahead and apply our settings to this image and see what happens. This is the preview, of course. It goes pretty fast because it's just a small part of the image. And it's just applying it there. It'll be done in just a few seconds. There we go. Now, can you see the difference? Can you see that smuttering on your screen? That kind of little dark spots and almost looks like posterization in the dark. That's before, that's after. It's huge, but it really cleaned up that dark data. You'd never see it in the light. And that's why I chose this as a preview. Now that I've done it on the preview and I'm happy with the result, I'm going to go up to my main image and I'm going to apply it to the main image because I'm satisfied with it. And there, it's done. So now I've got the, excuse me, I've got my noise reduction is taken care of. What I didn't do first, which I should have done first, is my color calibration, but it's still linear, so I should still be okay. So I'll get rid of that preview. And I have to create another preview for this particular step. This is the color calibration where we're going to calibrate this image for its color. Let me turn off multi-scale. We don't need that now. And this one's really quite simple. We're going to go to the darkest part of our sky because that is our background. So again, back in that one corner of sky that we've got. And I'm going to take a sample. And this sample size does not have to be big. It just has to have a sample area. So we want no stars and we want no nebulosity, if at all possible. And it's really hard to find that in this image because there's nebula everywhere. But anyways, we're going to use this as our background reference. And now what we're going to do is just simply color calibrate it. We don't have, we can use everything stock or default on this. And I don't have a reference image up here because I'm using structured detection instead. Structured detection actually looks at stars and it uses the lightness and the whiteness in the stars to give me my white reference. So I don't need to put another image in it. So if you choose structured detection, that's what it's actually doing. So the only thing you really need to do is create that preview, put it in the preview window, and then, like I said, default works quite nicely. Drop it onto the image. And it's going to, you're going to see a change in the color, quite a drastic one. So what I've done now, of course, is I've balanced out all the colors. Red, green, and blue are now even. I always unstretch it and then restretch it. And then there is our stretched, color corrected, color balanced image. And we've already done the noise reduction. So we're good on all that. So the only thing to do now is actually stretch it. So we want to take it and turn it from linear to nonlinear, a stretched image. So what we're going to do is the kind of stock way to stretch an image is we can take our screen transfer function. We're going to turn off the stretch. We're going to press the little radiation button on your screen transfer function. It'll stretch the image to a degree. I don't think it's stretched quite enough. So I'm going to go ahead and press this plus thing. And then when I do that, I can just hover over any one of these green, red, and blue keys. And if I press that, that's going to open up my ability to stretch it more. And then I can just press this button again. Now I can go ahead and stretch a little bit more on my image. So I don't want to push it too much because I don't want to blow out that core too badly. But I'm gonna say, you know, maybe that looks pretty good to me for the time being. I like that. So if I'm happy with that, I open up my histogram transformation tool, which again is, whoops, it's bouncing all over the place on me here. It's found under all processes. There we go. Just want to get it so I can actually use it. And so once I've got that chose, I'm always reset it. So there's nothing on the screen because right now, even though we're seeing this, we haven't stretched it yet. So what we do is we take that little blue triangle, drop it on the bottom of our histogram transformation tool. And now you can see that it's actually stretched the image, but we have to actually apply it to our image. When we do that, it goes completely white because we're actually double stretched. So we're just going to turn off the screen transfer function. And now we have an image that is stretched. And if you want to check it, you can see here where, you know, this is the color, the colors that we have. The red is a little bit strong according to this. But I would like to stretch it just a tiny little bit more with this. What we're aiming for, if you go up to this icon here that looks like a square with a cross going through it and press on it, this one here is actually going to allow us to see how dark this is in these corners. And what we're shooting for is around 10. We like our darker spot in the background to be around 10. So this is a little dark still. So what we're going to do is we're just going to push our histogram a bit more. And if you want to see what you're doing at the same time, just put on your preview so you can actually watch what you're doing. And I'm just going to push it just a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply it. And then when I look at my image now, there we are. We're at 9, 10. We're in where we want to be. I think we're fine. We're just a little imbalanced with color. So I'm going to take my green, and the top one is the one you want to keep an eye on when I adjust this. And I want to kind of bring it out a little bit more to try and get it a little more even with the red, same as my blue. Just a little bit even more with the red. And apply that. There we go. Now our image isn't so red anymore.
Oh, wow.
And now when I check here, you can see that my colors are getting much, much closer together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Even though that looks a little bright, we'll be able to recover that with another tool. So, okay, so now we're stretched. We're done with that one. So we're going to put him aside. Any questions at this point?
There's one. Are you now overblown in the core?
Almost, but I'm going to recover some of it with a tool called HDR multi-scale, and that will actually revive some of that brightness. The reason I'm going a little bright is because with this particular data set, to get that stuff, all that really light, faint nebulosity in the corners, we don't want it all blacked out. I have to kind of stretch it a bit more to bring that out. So
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with our luminance now. We're taking our luminance and we're going to stretch it. And to this point, all we've done to it is basically just put it together as an HDR image. If I unstretch it, you can see again that all the data is still there. So I'm going to stretch it. I'll just put a lower stretch on it there. So okay, so what we're going to do now is apply our DBE. No, we've already done that. Sorry, I'm beyond that. We don't need to do color calibration because it's grayscale.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to extract anything because we've actually taken luminance images. We need to deconvolve it. Now, I don't know how we're doing for time.
We're at 9:03, so I think we've still got a good amount of time left.
Okay, then we can do deconvolution to this. Deconvolution is where we actually revive and try to restore some of the resolution that's lost when we're shooting from Earth to space. We lose a lot of resolution in the movement of the sky and all of that stuff. We also lose a lot of resolution through the optics themselves. So what deconvolution is designed to do, it's designed to, if you know what convolution is to blur or spread out. Deconvolution is to do the opposite. We want to tighten up and get it back a better resolution. So what we need to do is to turn on our deconvolution tool. When we have deconvolution, there are three things what we need to create to be able to use deconvolution correctly. The first thing we need to create is what they call a point spread function. There's a number of ways we can do this. There's the long way, and then there's a script way. I'm going to do the script way because of time, but it works very, very well. And to be honest, I use it all the time because it's never failed me yet. So the first thing we need to do is to go to our script, go to render, and to PSF image. Now, this is the script that was written by Harmit Bornemann, and it's very, very good. And what it's going to do, it's going to select a number of stars. It's going to take the average size of a star, and it's going to give me a point spread function, an average point spread function based on this image. So all I have to do is click evaluate. I'm just going to leave it on Moffat. It'll choose Moffat stars, and I'm going to evaluate it. It'll just take a few seconds to evaluate. There it is. So if I'm happy with the point spread function that I see here, and again, I don't question them, I'd like what it gives me for results, then all I have to do is hit create. I can turn this off now. And my point spread function, whoops, it's hiding down here, is right there. So I'm just going to shrink him down and we'll put him away for a bit. The next thing I need to do is I have to create a de-ringing, a local de-ringing support image. What that is for, it's a star mask, basically. So I have to create a star mask so that when the deconvolution goes through its processes, I don't want to see any black rings around the stars. So this is a support image to do that. So all I'm going to do here is choose star mask. And if you've never built a star mask before, there's a star mask tool. For the purpose that I'm using this, This one is pretty well set up for that. So I don't really need to change a whole lot here. There's not a lot of really big stars in this image to begin with. If I wanted to maybe grab a few more of those bigger stars, I could increase the large scale if some of those stars weren't selected. But basically, this one should work pretty good. So all we have to do with this is just basically take it, that little triangle, and drop it on the image, and it'll go ahead and create a star mask for us. And I'll just give it time. I'm going to have a little sip of coffee. So deconvolution is something that a lot of people have trouble with, and some people have no trouble with it whatsoever. And it's not really that hard once you do it a few times. It's like any other process. Once you know the things that you need, you just go get the things that you need. So the star mask was one of them. And if I want to see how good this star mask is or how well it looks, I can just take it and drop it on the image. And then I can just take and push on my mouse, and I can see underneath it.
Okay.
Okay. And if it's not hiding some of those larger stars, I'm concerned. But as you can see, it's got a lot of those bigger stars. I'm okay with this mask. I think it's going to be fine. So I'm going to call this identifier local D-ringing support image, LDSI. And the reason I'm using capitals is because in my deconvolution tool, when it goes to look for it, it always looks for exactly the same image. So there it is right there, LDSI. My PSF is here. When I go to external PSF, it's up here. So, but anyway, that's why I went to capitals with this one. So now I can I'm not going to close the star mask. I'm just going to shrink it and put them out of the way. So now that I've got that done, I just need to, and I'm just going to shrink this down. And I'm going to put him right under my PSF. And then the final thing I need to do is I need to create a mask for the deconvolution itself. So to do that, I'm just going to create a copy. And then I have to take that copy and I have to turn it to, I have to turn it from linear, I have to stretch it. So it has to go from linear to nonlinear. So all I'm going to do is take the STF, and I'll do this relatively quickly. I'm just going to turn off the stretch on this image here, make sure I got the right one. And then I'm going to apply the stretch. And then I'm just going to go to my histogram transformation tool as usual. And I'm going to reset it so that we have nothing there. I'm going to work with RGBK because it won't work anything else because this is grayscale. And then I'm going to transfer that to here, just like we did on the other image. And I'm going to transfer that to there. Turn off that double stretch. Okay. And then I'm going to reset. And I might want this just a little brighter, just to protect some images. I'll show you again by doing a preview so you can see what you're doing. And then I might want my image a little darker. So with a mask, you want to protect with the dark areas and reveal with the lighter areas. And I think this is pretty good. So we're going to say that's okay. I'm going to apply that. I'm now going to turn the preview off. I now have my mask created. So I don't need the histogram transformation anymore. And I'm going to call this decon mask. Okay. So now I've got my decon mask. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to put all this together. So first thing we need to do is to put our mask, and how you apply a mask is you grab the identifier tab and you put it below the other one, and then it will turn red. When you see that red, you know obviously that's a mask, so it's masking. So I can shrink the mask down because I don't need to see it now. I know it's working, but I still want to see the image. So if you go up here, you can actually turn that mask preview off and on. So if you don't want to look at the mask and you want to see the image, you know it's still masked because it's got that brown tab in the corner. So you're completely masked, so you're good. So we've got that done. So now we're going to open up our deconvolution tool. We're going to go to external PSF because we created one externally with our script. So we go to external PSF and we're going to look for it. Where is it? There it is, PSF. Simply hit OK, and now it's in there. Our LDSI is already in there because we've already created it. I don't have to do that again. One thing I will tell you on this when you're doing deconvolution, and this is really important, is the global dark will actually be at about 1000 or 0.100. Take it down to 0.0200. That's where that should be. That should really be, in my estimation, the default value for that. So make sure your global dark is down at 2. And the amount of iterations is default is 10. Try to go to 30 at least, because you need to have a certain amount of iterations to be able to see the effectiveness of what's going on here. So once we've got all that done, we're ready to go. We're ready to actually put that in place. So we're going to take a preview of an area. I like to, over here is good because I can see what's going on with a lot of this wispy kind of area here, especially right in here. And I want to see if I can bring more detail back in that with this. So all we do now is just simply apply it to our preview, and then it'll do 30 iterations. It'll go pretty quick because it's a small part of the image.
Mm-hmm. There is a question.
Yes.
How does the Easy Decon script compare to what you're doing here?
Easy Decon script works very well. Actually, a lot of people use it and actually love it. Mm-hmm. I do it this way because I can control a few more of the things. When you're doing any kind of scripting, they're doing things for you. So there's a set formula that they use, but not every image is the same. So sometimes you need to go ahead and do things manually. But I believe in scripts if they're written well, and PixInsight won't put a script in their software unless they know that it's effective. So so by all means, the Easy suite is one of the best things that they've ever come up with, especially for somebody learning PixInsight, because it does a lot of things for you, but it allows you to see what actually happens and what needs to happen. So before you actually make a commitment to an adjustment. Okay, so let's look at this before and after. Anytime you do a preview, up in this corner, there's a little arrow, like a do and undo. You're not going to use this one. You're going to use this one because this one's for the preview. So let's undo the preview. Now look at this area right here, this nebulosity that's really bright. It's got all this nice sharp shapings to it. Let's go ahead and add the deconvolution. And do you see the difference? It's a small one, but it's added resolution. And at the same time, it should be reducing the stars. So I'm actually going to give this 40 iterations. And I know what it's going to do for me with 40. It'll do a little bit more than that. But essentially what you're looking for is you want to make sure you're not getting any black rings around the stars, which we're not. We want to see a little bit more resolution on the image, because what we're doing is we're not sharpening. We're actually recovering resolution. And then they're two totally different things. And so that's what this tool is designed to do. So I'm just going to go
kind of like the equivalent of CSI's enhance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what it does. So now I'm just going to enhance this, and it's going to do 40 iterations. It won't take too long. It's a good time now for questions.
Yeah. Sorry.
Nothing there?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
That worked.
It's like I said, this is a bit of a process because it's such a huge project. And again, my little flub at the beginning.
No,
a little time.
Yeah.
But that's what'll happen in the real world to everybody anyway. So it's actually not a bad thing to see how well you can recover.
Yeah. No, like I said, I accidentally closed an image that I'd been working on for a good 20 or 30 minutes today. And it just meant that I had to do the extra work over again.
You lost it?
Yeah, like I had 3 or 4 different images open, and I had copied and pasted, and I was kind of blending them together. And then I thought I was closing one, and it turned out I was closing the main one that I was working on. So there it goes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so easy to get to get confused. And that's why one of the things that I've learned earlier on, especially with this, is to try to keep your workspace as clean as possible. So when you know you don't need an image or something anymore, get rid of it, because it's so easy to do just exactly what you did.
Yep. Yep.
Whoops, fumble.
Yep. There goes all my work.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're 80% done here now, so it'll be just about done. Deconvolution is very, very CPU intensive. So it takes a little time to chew through that process, and it takes a little time to do the process. And some people feel that, that they don't think it's worth it, but if you've got really good data, it really does make a difference. It really does, especially in the end. And we're 39 out of 40. We got one more to do, then we will be done. Ta-da, good, that is it. So we can now close that tool. I can take my preview and delete it. I don't need it anymore. We've got our deconvolution completed. And now from there, what we need to do next is a little bit of noise reduction on this. And let's have a look at this data. Again, this is so clean. It's unbelievable. I'm going to really stretch it. Yeah. And it's just like hardly any, you can see some right there. Can you see it?
Not on my screen, but it might
I'm 900% to be able to see that. So you know what? I'm gonna call it negate it, because it's really not. I don't think it's necessary to do that. It's so clean.
Yeah.
So, but if I did, it would be just another run of MLT noise reduction. Okay, where we'd use a preview mask and so on. But this data is too clean for that. So I'm not going to do that right now. So the next thing we need to do is just stretch the image. So I'm going to take the mask off. Remember, if it's brown, the mask is still on. So you can go up to mask on the top and just remove the mask. So there. So that is completely done. So now that that's done, I no longer need the decon mask. So I'm going to clean it off. I no longer need the LDSI. And I'm going to delete it. And I no longer need the PSF. Okay, good. We're keeping it clean. Now, all we need to do now is stretch the image. So I have to unstretch it so that I can stretch it. So this one here, I'm going to use a histogram transformation on it rather than STF. I'll create a preview because I want to stretch this a little slower, a little less aggressive. So again, we're going to reset it. And I'm just going to push it just a little bit, and you can start to see the core come out first. And I'll stretch it to that point. It double stretches on my preview, but as soon as I reset it, it shows you exactly what we've done on that image. Okay, so now I'm going to give it another little stretch. As you can see, I'm slowly bringing out more detail, keeping an eye on the core, of course. And I'll apply that. Reset it. And now I want to see, do I have any black point to work with? Not much. When you're stretching an image, you got to make sure that you're not pushing this into there. And how you can tell if you're losing data is where it says shadows. If it says 0, that means I haven't clipped any data. The more I push it into that, you can start to see that now this is how many pixels I've clipped, the percentage of it and that sort of thing. That's still not a lot, but in this case, in this image, we don't want that. We want that brighter, not darker. So, so I'll shrink that back down, and I'm going to re-stretch it again because it's still not bright enough yet. There we go. Now we're starting to get some luminosity detail, and I'll be able to pull some of that back again with that other tool we talked about, because once I'm done this, we're going to combine these. And apply that, close that, and there we have it. Okay, so that is our stretched luminance. So that's ready to be combined with our RGB data. Okay, so I'll just make those 7. I'm just doing that just for neatness.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take our LRGB combination, and it's looking for loom. If I try to make this work just drop it on, it won't work because I have to put in whatever the name is on my Luminance channel. So this one here, I'll pop in place. Once I've got that done, I want to make sure that I don't have red, green, or blue checked because I'm only putting luminance to this image. I'll apply it. Okay, now I'm just gonna, okay, so my luminance is probably still just a little dark. So I'm going to restretch it. So I'm just going to turn this off for the moment, go back to this and go back to histogram transformation. And I need to push it just a little bit more. I'm not going to push it too much because I don't want to kill the core.
Yeah.
Okay, there, that should do it. So I'll reset that, close that off, and now I'll reapply it. LRGB combo. And again, just take that, drag it up to that top spot, and then put that over top of that image. There we go. Now it's quite a bit brighter. So this is before, and this is after we're adding the luminance before. And I want to, okay, no, I think that's good because there's still, I'm going to bring it in and add in. So the core is still there. Whoops. So we still have the core, so I just got to shrink it down. Okay. All right, so we've got that done. So let's shrink that image down. So now we have identifier. So now we have LRGB. That's our LRGB image. Okay, so I'm going to close this off. Now at this stage, we can add a little bit of HDR. So what HDR is going to do is going to try to compress some of this. I noticed when I get real close, I got a little ringing on the stars. So I wasn't as careful as I should have been on the deconvolution, but that's okay for now. So I'm going to take our HDR multi-scale tool and I'm going to push it up to probably 7. And the higher that you put this, the less effectiveness that it has, because it actually creates more layers. So it's not as drastic. The lower the number, the more drastic it is. I want to preserve the hue, if there's still hue in there, and put the lightness mask on, and I'm going to add de-ringing to it. So that's all, but everything else is going to be stock. Let's see what happens when we do this, if it helps it or hinders it.
Yeah, and with this particular data set, I was warned. So Stuart edited and put together the beginner packages, beginner, intermediate, and expert packages. And he said that the data is, like, especially in the core, it can be really hard to work with because it is quite bright. Even in the shorter exposures, it looks a little blown, but it's just a little bit, it just makes it hard to work with, right? So
yeah, absolutely. No, and he's 100%. I was really impressed how he was able to put his together. But it does take a few go rounds. So you can see now, we can see the core easily in the image. So here's before.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we were able to restore the core. I might even go up to 8 because 7 may be a little aggressive. Let's see. It doesn't take too long for it to actually chew through this.
Yeah.
I just don't want it too dark, and I don't want too many artifacts in the core.
But it's pretty amazing how clear it makes it, hey?
Yeah, and this is the tool that you use on things like this, on galaxies with bright cores, like the Andromeda galaxy,
right?
And any galaxy that's really, really bright in the center. And you can actually mask out there we go, that's better. You can mask out a specific spot on it and have it happen. It works very, very well. Okay, so that's it. So that's I think that looks good for a combined image with our luminance, our RGB, and we had to combine had to blend 2 different images to preserve the core. And I would say we admirably. You say that word for me?
Admirably.
Thank you. I've done it. Yeah, it looks good. It looks like a nice natural transition from the core to the rest of the image. So we're okay with that. So we are 3/4 of the way home. From this point, this is where you're going to have to work with the narrowband data. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something relatively quick on this because of time, because I know we're getting a little long. I'm going to take the channel combination and I'm going to create a channel out of the HA and the O3. I'm going to put the HA into the R, and I'm going to put the O3 into the green, and that same O3 into the blue, and create an HOO image.
Okay.
Oh, did I press the button? Probably not. There we go. So now we have an HOO image here, and I'll stretch it so you can see it. So there it is there.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've got that created, then we kind of got to go through a few of the steps to get it ready to be transferred over and combined. So what we need to do is our processing. So we need to do our dynamic background extraction. So we're going to do subtraction first. Whoops, let me just know that one for a second because I've got to make my, no, I've actually got the copy there. Excuse me. So I'm going to do that first. So yeah, turn that off. Yes. And then I'm just going to set that image aside for now, just in case we make a mistake on this. And then I'm going to do it again. And this time we're going to do division. Same thing. And we have to process this data the same way that we process all the other data sets. That's why I say this is a complex, because there's a lot of assembly. Okay, so now we've got that done. Let's have a look. Okay, so that looks nice. All right, so then we can do some noise reduction if necessary. Let's have a look on those really dark areas. You know what? I'm not really seeing. I'm seeing a tiny bit. Can you see it at all?
Not really, but that's, my screen is a little.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do an MLT, but it doesn't need a whole lot. So very, very simply, MLT. We're going to go ahead and unstretch it. And then we're going to turn on our linear mask, turn on our preview mask. Again, do our preview so we can see the image. And again, it's just in the very outer regions that there will be noise. So I'm okay with this mask. I think it looks good. So so let's turn that off. Turn off the preview. We now have the MLT. I'll restretch the image. We can do a little preview on it just to make sure it did what it was supposed to. We'll just catch that corner. And there we are. Again, I can see the noise in it, but you may not be able to. And then I'm just going to apply it to that preview just to make sure it does in fact do the job. And oh yeah, oh my goodness, yeah. I'm glad I did it. Okay, so that was just on the previews, but now I just need to do it on the overall image. Here we go. I'll just take a couple of seconds. Okay, so now that we've got that done, we can take the preview and get rid of it and turn off our MLT. We no longer need it. And now we are to the point where we can stretch this image. So we're going to turn off the stretch on it because it is linear. We're going to go ahead and use our STF. We're going to stretch the image, open it up. And I think we're not too bad with this, really. I might just get a little bit more brightness on it. Just a bit, just a tad. That's it. Okay, I'm good with that. So then we're going to take our histogram transformation. And keep in mind, the reason that I'm doing both of these tools is I'm stretching it with this, but I have to apply the stretch tool that will actually do a real stretch because the STF is only a It's just a preview stretch is all it is, right?
Mhm.
So now that we've put it on there, we simply put it to there, turn off this. We've got our stretched hydrogen alpha. Okay, now that we've got that done, we're going to call it identifier HA. Only because there's a tool I'm going to use that's looking for that little acronym, that HA word in it. So let's stretch him down, see what we're doing. There we are. Okay, so now we have the two images. All I'm going to do now at this stage is some pixel math. That's going to sound funny to some people who have never done pixel math before. This one, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to put it up on the screen, and I'm going to leave it on for about 5 seconds. That way there, if anybody wants to go back, they can actually copy this pixel math expression. So it's this one right here. And that's the expression right there. So it's just all written in there. So what you would do is you would go to your red here, and you would write this. You go to green, you would write this. You go to blue, and you'll write this. And then your summary is basically everything that you saw. Okay. So I'll leave that on the screen for a few seconds, and I'll take a sip of coffee, get my throat a little less groggy. So now that we've got that done, whoops, I am now going to just basically close this out. And all I have to do, because I call this HA, and HA is really what it's looking for, I just have to take this shortcut, drag it and drop it onto my LRGB. And there, it just, oh, it's not lined up. Oh boy. Okay, we have to fix that. That's easy. And this will happen when you have so many images out. If you haven't aligned, but anyway, it's a very, very simple thing to do.
Gotcha.
What we're going to do is we're going to go to processes, all processes, star alignment.
There you go.
And we're going to fix this. So the reference image that I want to use is my LRGB. So I'm going to put that as, oops, try that again. I ran out of space on my desk. Put my reference image in there, and then I want to clear these two out, and I want to use this as the image that I have to register with it.
Okay.
Once I've got that done, I just simply press this button. It's going to create a new registered image for me. There it is. Beautiful. So I can turn that off now. I can hide that one. And this one should actually fit. If I make it the same size, it should fit. Hey, 1/7. There we go. So that should fit over top of that one now. Beautiful. Lines up perfectly. Okay.
That's so handy.
All right. So let's go ahead and apply HA to the RGB image. Oh my gosh, it still didn't do it. What happened? Do I have to register it the other way? I think I might have to. Oh my goodness, what a night of things to go wrong.
Yeah.
Oh my good golly, Miss Molly. So I'm going to get rid of this registered one. Hold my HA again. Back to process.
Well, the HA combo would be taking it from the HA, right? As opposed to the HA.
Yeah.
The one with the title HA.
Yeah, where it says HA RGB combination. That's what it's doing. It's Okay, so I'm going to take my LRGB. I'm going to clear that. And then I'm going to take that out of there. And I'm going to use the HA as the reference image. Then I'm going to use the LRGB as the one that has to register.
Okay.
All right, and let's see. That will create another registered image. And let's hope this works out. Star alignment. Okay, so we can take that off. And I'll be able to shrink this one. This is the new registered one. And if I put this into a 1:9 ratio, it's not cropped, but it should register. 1:9. 1:9. Oh my gosh. Can't believe it.
That one did, didn't it?
No. What's happening is I don't know why it's not registering. I can't figure that out.
Was it that the HA wasn't cropped at the same time as the?
It's very possible, because when I look at the two, I'm just going to open this up a bit more, 1 to 7. And I should be able to place that over that, but they're very different, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that the one wasn't cropped at the same time.
Yeah, so I just got to figure out which one is larger. So if that was our 1.8, that was 1.8.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's the RGB that's actually cropped larger.
Mhm.
That, you know what happened? I know exactly why. When we had to go back in and I had to grab those two images from my older file, they were not.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. All right, so that means I have to register this with this image, and I'm hoping this will work, because if it doesn't, we may not be able to apply it. Oh my
Well,
gosh!
if everybody follows the same steps that you did, then
yeah, it will work. There's no question. I'm just going to try this one more time, and if this doesn't work, then I'm just going to pretend that it did, and then we'll show you that the other stuff we were going to do in Photoshop.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's just try this one more time. I need to register this with this. So all processes, star alignment, and we need to register this image, which is the LRGB,
Mhm.
with, no, sorry, that's not the reference. This is the reference to this.
Mhm.
That's what it should do, and we'll see if it does. And if it doesn't, then like I say, this is what you would do anyway.
Yeah.
To try to straighten it out. And that's how you would apply the, I don't think it's going to, but it looks like that. Whoops. Oh, I can move that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. We'll find out. Registered 1 to 8. It works there, but the crop isn't the same.
Mhm.
So if I did this, no, that didn't help. Okay, we're just going to say that we added the HA, because it's just not working for me tonight.
Yeah, it's if people follow the same steps, they'll get, the.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been working on this maybe too long. Okay, so anyway, so once you've got the HA, that's what you do. And you just take it, drag it, and drop it. It will apply the hydrogen alpha to that image. That'll work out just great. Okay, so once we've got that done, then the only other things you really need to do is a few adjustments. What did I do now? I think I'm just falling apart. There we go. We just need to do a few adjustments. I'm gonna move my screen. There we go. To kind of bring this out a little bit, and then we're going to make some magic happen with it. So here's where you would do some contrast adjustments. So you could use your local histogram equalization. And what this is going to do, you're just going to create a preview. And what we want to do is now to give this a little bit more drama. So when you're doing the preview, you can see that I can add in more contrast to it.
Right. Yeah.
Or less. So, and this is what I call salt and pepper at this stage, because you're kind of choosing how you want that to look. If that looks like and again, these changes should be subtle. So we'll drop that over there. Just take a few seconds. It'll make the adjustment, and you should see a little more contrast in this image here. Excuse me. 95%. There we go. It should be almost done. There we go. Okay, so now when you look at it before and after, it's kind of flat. Now we got a little contrast going on.
Yeah, you can definitely see that.
Yeah. So once we get that done, there's a few other things you could do, but typically we like to go to our curves. This is where a lot of the color and all that sort of thing will take place. So the first thing that I would like to do is create a preview. And then from that preview, if I want to take what looks like gray, which is that 03, that's in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually choose this B component, and I'm going to pull it back a little bit. Watch what happens. There's your blue. You can start to see that starting to appear, because that really is a blue nebulous cloud that's out there.
Okay.
And whoops. And again, it's depending on how much you want to change it. You know, you can play around with it. This again is just all sort of salt and pepper stuff. If I just want to add saturation to it, I can actually start pushing the colors more. And then from there, I could go to my lightness and create more contrast in the image. And just play with it back and forth, that kind of stuff. I'll bring up areas so they're blending a little better. Anyway, that's some of the things that you can actually do with this. But you got, there we go, we're starting a little better. And you just have to take your time and just kind of work away at it. Once you've got that done, if you're happy with, say, what this was, for example, I'll just apply that change. Close that off. Then I would say that you're ready to just, you can continue to process it. And the images that you've seen that were behind you and I were images that I spent a lot of time processing to bring out the colors and stuff. So that's basically what you would do there. I will take a few minutes and just show you one simple thing in Photoshop, if I could, if we have time.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to open up Photoshop, and you can see the image I was working on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to close that one out, and I'm going to go back to PixInsight. I got to save this first. So I'm going to file. I'm going to save that as just what it is, and I'll save it to the HDR composition file. Oh, hold it now. Yeah, I've got to save it as a TIFF.
Okay.
So let me cancel that again. File, save as, because Photoshop won't recognize that file.
Yeah, this is a really important step. This is.
Yes. And then we're going to save it. Photoshop doesn't like 32-bit. Photoshop likes 16-bit.
True
so
enough. Yep.
Once we've got 16-bit, we're okay with this. Now we're going to save it. Now it's saved. So we can close or shut down that. We'll open up Photoshop. We'll open that file into Photoshop, and there it is there. Simply click on it, open it, and there it is. So it looks a little flat and lifeless, and this is what the magic of Photoshop will allow us to do. So we're going to use a thing called layers, which I think you're familiar with. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pick those colors that I want to see if I can bring them out a bit. So I'm going to go to where it says select, and I'm going to go to color range. And then I'm going to take my eyedropper and I'm going to drop it on that cloud. And then you can see in here, it would choose all of that cloud should I desire that much of blue. And I'm going to say, sure, why not? So but it only actually truly does a small section. So you go ahead and over here, select your tool. And I'm going to use, in this case, color balance. And now, excuse me, I'm going to go right to my highlights. And I'm going to actually try to tint that. You can see how it's changing that blue and bring it down. It's just like, oh, look at that cloud. Where do you come from? Right? And maybe if you want it, and you want to try to keep it as true to what it is. It's not really deep blue like that, right? It's more of that kind of tealy bluish, because that's what Oxygen 3 is. Once you're okay with that little adjustment, simply click on layers, click on the image again, and this time you're going to go back to select, and you're going to select color range. And now I'm going to fix the clouds down here. Okay, so I click on that. Now I'm going to work with these ones. And same thing. I'm just going to open up my adjustment tool, go to my color balance, and then I'm going to go ahead to my highlights, and I'm going to add a little more cloud in there. And look at the cloud pop out.
Well, doesn't, yeah, that really makes it pop out, gives it that 3D effect that
Yeah.
everybody's always looking for, right?
Yeah, and that's just in the highlights. If you want to do it in the midtones, you can really, you can make it as strong as you want. But it can, I don't know if you can see it, Allendria, but
Yeah,
as
yeah.
I'm adding that, that's actually creating depth in that image.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
actually looking at this cloud in front of me. I'm looking further into this part and even further into the darker part, right?
Yep.
So it's creating that dimension that we were looking for that was not created on the other side. So we go back to layers. And if at any time you want to see the difference, just take your little eyeball, turn it off and on, and you can see the differences that we made, right? And you can continue on with that. Like if I want more red, I would just simply go to, and always click the bottom layer so that you can make those adjustments so that you're not affecting all the other layers.
Right.
And then we're going to go to select again, and we're going to go color range. This time I want to play with the red, right? So we'll say okay with that. And it's going to select a certain part of it. Again, all I'm doing right at this stage is just color balancing. So again, this time I don't want to turn it blue. I want to have a little more red in there, right? And you see how it brightens? And it just starts to come to life. Like, oh my goodness. Look at that. And so again, if you want to add a little more blue to give it a little bit more of that natural hydrogen alpha rather than that fire engine red, you can do that. And so you've got total control for doing this. And then go back again, click on the original layer, go back to layer again, or select, I mean, color range, and I'll fix the red up here now. Okay. And same thing. I'm going to go in to color balance. And again, I'm going to go to my highlights because I want to brighten this thing up. Oh, look at that. And it just comes to life. You know what I mean? So you can do this for as long as you please. And you can have so much fun. For example, down here, I'll just do one more thing. It's still a layers thing I want to show you, but it's a little different approach. Instead of using the color range, I'm going to use the lasso tool. And I'm going to lasso this because it's kind of flat and lifeless to me. And I want to bring out more color. So when I do that, if you look up here on the top, when I have that tool selected, there's a tool called feather. And I've got this feathered out at 65 pixels. So it's going to give me a really nice feathered mask.
Like a fade, yeah.
Yeah. So when I go ahead and select a tool now, and in this case, I'm going to just probably select, I don't know, maybe hue and saturation or color balance. And if I go to layers, here's what it did. See the mask it made for me?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what it did. So now I'll just go back into my tool. There we go. And I want to brighten that up. There we go. Now I'm bringing that portion to life. And this is, of course, called, there are what they call local and global adjustments. And this is a local adjustment, which means I'm localizing one part of the image and I'm just working away at it, getting it to where I want it. Once I've
never used local adjustments before.
Oh, really?
I've always just done everything globally.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, when you start doing, yeah, because especially with a complex image like this, it's amazing. Once you've got that done, if you're okay with, say, how it looks and that sort of thing, with this, if you think, you know what, with all those adjustments, I wouldn't change a thing. I really like it. And you go ahead and merge it right here. And now it's one image. It's all there. You're committed to it. And then you can go over to your filter and open up your camera raw filter. And this is where you can create some dynamics in this image. Just simply open up your basic tools and just use these three to start. And I would take clarity first. And then you can start to see, now you can create some depth. Now you can create some contrast. If I want a little more sharpness to the image or more, you know, I just push a little bit of the texture, not a whole lot. And then if I want to dehaze it, I can drop it down, or I can go the opposite way. Look at all the cloud that's in there. And you were wondering why I couldn't find a point on there to choose for a dark sky, because there isn't any.
You look at that up in that top left corner there with the dehaze, and that's that really pulls it out.
Yeah, so I could even, you know, I could even leave it like that, which I actually like. And then you could actually just increase the vibrance a bit, create a little color with it, and look what you got.
Mhm.
And you can work on this, and this would be considered a global adjustment because I'm doing this on the complete image.
Yeah.
So once I've made a few global adjustments that I like, I can simply hit OK. It puts me back into Photoshop, and then I can go ahead and correct a few of the local adjustments again if I want to.
Mhm.
So you can spend so much time in this. And there's more of that.
There it is. Yeah.
Stuart Hagee color that he got.
Yeah. Yeah. That bright blue and kind of pink. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you wanted to, you can go back into Photoshop. I hit OK. This brings it back in, makes those adjustments for me. And I can go in and I can do a lasso on this, and I can actually color that in, make it pink like the rest of the image. And the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So that's it.
All right.
To apologize for all my mistakes, but
no, it's it's bound to happen because this is a really complex image. Like it is.
It is. Yeah. Anyway, and that's it. So that's how I would probably approach this image. And this actually, I kind of like this one. So I'm going to save it. File, save as, and I'm going to save it as we'll call it session image. I can't spell either.
If you send it to me, I'll put it in the post on the in the article so that people can see your final image too.
And we're going to save this, and I'm going to put it in my HDR composition, save, and that is it. There.
Well, there it is.
Yeah. So if there's any questions, I don't know if anybody hung in that long, but if
there were a couple kind of related to whether, like, just when you were trying to add the HA, the hydrogen alpha. But I think for the most part, we just kind of,
Yeah. And
that was just related to the different files and sizing. So
yeah, and that's exactly what happened was I took the files from another session, and they were totally cropped differently. It was anyway. That's why they didn't work. So
in the future, if people are doing that, just that they have to use the same crop right across the board. So
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So there it is.
Well, thanks so much, Paul.
Well, it's my pleasure. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of learning.
It's a beautiful image. Like this is great. This is and yours, the one behind you, is a beautiful one. Like that's the way that those stars pop out in the core. It's and hopefully this was helpful to everybody else out there too. And we'll be seeing a lot. I hope that you all submit your images to the editing contest.
Yes, please do. I would love to see what people do with this from their perspective. And I'm sure there's some people that everything would be different. We know that, but I would really love to see a whole bunch of these and just compare them and just to see what people are seeing when they're putting something like this together. Be fantastic.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you all for attending. We'll be posting this online. I've shared the YouTube link in the chat, and it'll be available at skynews.ca as well. I don't know if I mentioned it at the beginning, but I am Allendria. Been just chatting away here and nobody knows who I am. But yeah, I hope you all have a lovely night, and we look forward to seeing your images. And thanks again, Paul.
Great. Thank you. See you again, everybody.